Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to Working Hours, an oral history podcast about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. Working Hours wants to record 1,000 loiners over the course of this, the most important decade in the history of the human species, and ask them about what they do all day and hear how they feel about it. My name is Simon, and this is all my fault. My mission here is to try to map out what my city, Leeds, a city that has declared a climate emergency, did during humanity's biggest emergency. On Working Hours, we hear how loiners have, are, and will be coping with our multiple and expanding crises during their day-to-day working hours. Can we turn things around? We'll find out. To tell this story, I need loiners like you, dear listener. I need people in Leeds or people from Leeds to come on this podcast and just tell me what they do all day and let me record how this affects us. Thank you for listening.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a vet. I did A-level and further A-level maths, but chemistry just didn't work out for me. I did 2 weeks in a veterinary surgery and I saw so many cat spays. I feel like I could do one now with my eyes closed, and I hated it. I didn't want that to be my life. So I just wanted to go to uni. I didn't care what I did. And my mum said that the marketing team at her work had the most fun. So I picked that, not knowing anything about it. And here we are.
You're listening to Series 5, Episode 13, and to my guest, Fiona Bradley. This is another Squadcast interview recorded on the 23rd of May, 2024. Hello. I have toothache. Again. It's awful. Woke me up in the middle of the night. Great stuff. So, how are you? How are you doing? How much election coverage are you subjecting yourself to? I'm managing to avoid most of it still. Don't pay it no mind. Pay me £1 a month instead, and then you can motivate me to crack on with this. Go to voteforpolicies.org.uk if you're undecided. Okay, let's crack on. Fiona Bradley is the founder and director of FBComms, a social media content agency named Startup of the Year 2024 at the EU Content Awards. Having created content and run campaigns for the likes of the NHS, Rolex, Coca-Cola, and growing many startups, Fiona was named Digital Agency Owner of the Year 2023. Alongside running the After Work Club networking events and lecturing MSc Marketing students at Durham University, she's a coach for the Riding for the Disabled Association. Right, let's do this, episode 123 of Working Hours with Fiona Bradley.
Okay, well, we'll jump straight into what you're doing now then. So what is it that you're doing now?
I run a content marketing agency in Leeds City Centre, FBComms, and I set that up nearly 4.5 years ago now. Initially just freelancing. It was a complete accident to set up my own business, to be totally honest. I was freelancing for 2 years, took it limited so I could hire, and that was 2.5 years ago.
So 2.5 years ago, so we're talking post-COVID here, aren't we?
Yeah, it was the week before lockdown when I registered the business and started working from home, set up my home office, and then that was announced. I was like, I'm already set up, so I'm ready for the home working, but wasn't ready for what was about to happen.
Yeah, wasn't ready for the economy being turned off.
Yeah.
So let's do a quick how did you get into it? So you kind of sketched some of it. But did you go straight from marketing degree into marketing in various companies, junior, working your way up, and then you're like, I've been doing this freelance for a bit, I'm going to go and turn this into a company?
Pretty much. When I had the audacity for applying for roles that I didn't quite have the experience for. I'd never not had a job, but when I was 13, 14, I was working, probably not legally, for like £3 an hour in a Chinese buffet washing dishes, and then at Pizza Huts and like doing stints in offices. So I had years of experience, and then I was going to companies that were asking for 3 to 4 years direct marketing experience, which I didn't have, but I was saying I've got all this other experience that is transferable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd always been slightly entrepreneurial, but then I went into a massive agency. They were like, you know what, go on, let's give you a chance. And one of my first big pitches was to Coca-Cola, and we got it. And it was just that kind of just set me off on a trajectory. And then I went to a much smaller agency. And after a year there, I was kind of getting itchy feet. I had so many ideas, but they didn't, because it was so small, want loads and loads more clients and things. So I applied for more jobs. My previous director got in touch from the last agency and said, oh, we've got a job for you. It's 5 days a week. And I was like, perfect, have me in. Said, oh, it's easier for them on their books to have you as a contractor rather than a full-time employee, because then they don't have payroll and all that. And he helped me set up as a freelancer or sole trader. And then I was accidentally a business owner, but it was still like a full-time job. And then a few months in, the client stopped paying. And when I chased the invoice, he said, why don't you go do some yoga or Pilates or something that, you know, women do to calm down? And I lost it. So we stopped doing the work, and I put a few feelers out, posts on LinkedIn, and within 2 weeks I was fully booked up as a freelancer. And I was like, this is going freaking well. And in lockdown, so many businesses, small local businesses, didn't have an online presence but had to shut their stores. So I did a DIY option. I'd set everything up, take over the channels for 1-2 months, and then do the training so they could take it back over. And that got me quite a bit of attention through lockdown. Won Young Digital Marketer of the Year, and my profile just blew up. At one point it was me and just so many freelancers and contractors, because so much work was coming in and it was a nightmare. So then I went limited to bring people in full time, and here we are. So there's 3 of us full time at the minute, and we've got maybe between 8 to 12 contractors, depending if we need video design and things that month.
Well, first of all, my reply to that guy would have been, well, why don't you pay your bills like an honest vendor in the market?
Yeah. If you paid it, I could afford Pilates.
Yeah. But so my second question, just on this area, is who was your first hire? Because that's become really interesting to me. Of like, who do you go for first? Like, are you just sort of closing the gap of like, I'm really rubbish at that, I need someone doing that, or are you like, yeah, who did you go for?
So Laura was my first hire. She's still with us, and yeah, she was just great. But
Another
she
marketer, another creative.
Yeah, so she was a marketer, but her previous role was project management. So she had all that operational side that I didn't. And I'm really good at the content creation and the social management and the ideation, but the actual running a business and having everything kind of organized was totally new to me. I literally Googled before I set up like how to run a business, how to start a company. There is no handbook, but she helped set up all the processes like client comms and like Notion boards and everything like that, and was finding loads of ways to make reporting easier. And that was like an absolute godsend. I don't think I could have got a better first hire. So I put a LinkedIn post out, copied Steve Bartlett, like, send me 3 bullet points of why I should hire you. It said like, I've got a dog, I think I'm funny, and then something about social media. Gave her a call that afternoon. She came in for an interview the next week, and then waited for her to finish a notice. It was very quick.
Yeah, nice. So, and now you've got 3 employees.
Yeah, full
How
time.
did you find that? Because I haven't done it yet, and I've heard from other people that it's a bit of a nightmare hiring someone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be the first to hold my hands up and say hiring's been really, like, staff has been the biggest challenge for our business. You know, some people start off really great and then it kind of falters, and or bringing in people from big agencies before where they've got a full team to support and do everything. It's a lot scrappier in a smaller business, and it's very noticeable. Like if one person's not pulling their weight, it kind of has a knock-on impact for the rest of the team. So staff has been a challenge for us, but then even speaking to agency owners like 20 years down the road from us, it's exactly the same. But I'm really happy with the team we've got now, and I could scale it much faster, but I don't want to. I want to make sure we've got the right people in to deliver great work and then find the people there. So we've got always be hiring. So nearly always have a LinkedIn job ad out, because if the right person comes in, I want them waiting in the sidelines for if we get clients in, then we've got the resource there to pull. Then panic and hire the wrong person because like, oh, I just need hands.
I mean, do you think some of that, I mean, there's a wisdom in that, like trying to make yourself a bit more robust. Do you think that kind of comes out of the COVID experience of like, I need to be prepared for shocks?
Yeah. I'm very sensible with it, and I don't want one person on one client, because then if that client goes, and being a small agency, we get outgrown. We've got 3 clients that one's outgrown us. Started with just 2 of them in a shed, and now they've got like 50 in a full warehouse, and they need more time than we've got. And another one like starting a family, so scaling back, and another one, we just achieved the goal, so we need to switch everything off. But that's always going to happen. So I don't want to just keep bringing it in and people in and not grow it in a mindful way where it actually works.
Okay, so I'll go into the questions, like the impact questions. So we'll start off with COVID. We've touched on it a little bit already. What I mainly want you to think about here is going into lockdown. Like, I mean, you've told us exactly where you were at that point, but I mean, generally, as we went into lockdown, people's work either went through the roof. You know, they're doing client management and they're trying to like answer questions and know what's going on, or they've got nothing to do because everyone's just shut. Or it kind of continued as normal, you know, like if you're a key worker or something, it's like it didn't change, it just got really busy. So what was that experience for you? And then coming out the other side, what are the kind of permanent changes that you've seen? I mean, it seems at this point everyone has just become used to doing this kind of online chatting. What was your experience?
Well, it didn't change for me because I was working 5 days a week from home anyway. But it was in sustainability, and quite frankly, people stopped caring about the planet half as much when they were just trying to stay alive, and they were terrified and didn't really care about the carbon footprint of getting through 10 masks a day and like all the plastic COVID tests and whatever. So I think that's kind of why that started tapering off. But then when I thought, oh, there's no point me then trying to get a full-time job because everyone in marketing's furloughed. So, and half the agencies, like people were slashing their marketing costs because people weren't going out and spending any money. So that's when I was like, right, I need to give this freelance stuff a shot. And I don't think it would have gone half as well if it wasn't lockdown. Because digital was the one industry that was booming because everyone was online. Everyone needed to have a virtual storefront. People needed websites building. They needed Facebook shop. They needed other ways to reach their potential clients, or they needed virtual offerings like virtual consultations or helping people set up like Calendly booking links and all that kind of stuff. I think it worked in our favor, really, because it was where we could really, really help a lot of small businesses that needed it. And it felt like we were making a big impact, and we were doing a lot of ads for the government and bits for the NHS on Facebook ads, like throughout, to help spread positive messaging. And for the government, when they opened up all the borders, we're running ads to try and keep people in the UK, to keep our own tourist industry going, which was yeah, fun. But I think going forward, it's changed my perspective on, I don't want to have too many eggs in one basket, because you never know what's going to happen. One industry could just go down. Everyone says, oh, you need to niche, but people who niched in events, they were absolutely shafted. And I like keeping it pretty open. Our niche is kind of a certain size of business. They need to be in a certain position rather than a specific industry, because anything could happen to it. And I don't want, like, I want an even kind of split of clients versus the income that they bring us. I don't want to be like 80% across one client, because you don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
And the industry as a general, I think people are still kind of nervous to spend, but when they are going out, they're spending a lot more. So events, hospitality, FMCG, like more luxury. We've got quite a few luxury drinks brands that are doing really, really well compared to regular drinks brands, and like luxury items, people are spending more when they do, or making more conscious choices.
Okay. So there's loads in that. I mean, would you? So my thought is, so my experience when we went into lockdown was, because my plan was, this was going to be a kind of foot operation. I was going to walk around to stores and kind of hand out leaflets and cards and kind of like, come and do this podcast sort of thing. Because I'm no social media expert. I'm no marketing expert, but I was like, if you build that, person to person, and then we went into lockdown. And then in terms of like reaching out to people, I was like, I'd sent out a few emails, but you just got nothing back, So I was like, I don't know if you're open. I don't know if you're operating. I don't know if, what's happened. So I just gave that up in the end. Do you think it benefited you having that connection, having already that industry background and the connections there, that you could kind of, when you went into this, people knew about it. So you could tap into that and collect the business, because people would have been searching for people such as yourself at the time. And again, being in that situation of like, who's open, who's working, who's not ill, even. So, yeah, I mean, do you think that helped?
Yes, absolutely. You're completely right. Having already a wide network, I always made a real effort to befriend all management, all the clients, keep conversations going, have that online network. I wasn't posting on LinkedIn that much, but I was still working on building my network. So when I did say, right, I've got capacity, who wants some marketing? I'm here. It filled up really, really quickly.
And then I suppose the kind of coming outside, I mean, obviously people were more used to, as we've said, doing online meetings. Have there been other changes that you noticed? I mean, I suppose hybrid working is a big change in terms of like how you actually, work with others. But I guess most of that's just managed online anyway. I suppose you're seeing different backgrounds in people's videos. The big change.
So we know what all their spare rooms look like. Yeah, hybrid working. I don't think people have nailed hybrid working yet, to be honest, because people are still maybe going into the office and no one else is there. I've heard someone call it the office spiral of doom. Like, someone goes in and nobody's there, and then they don't come back the next day because they spend it all on Zoom. And one of their other team comes in because their other team have been in and there's no one there. And then no one uses this office space, and it just spirals into wasted space. So we do try like collab of when people are going to be in. But we tried remote work. We've had contractors. One of the team went traveling, and it's like different time zones and things. I think to build those proper relationships, we try to see our clients in person wherever possible. I went to America last year to go do the round trip and see everyone in person. I just don't think that you can get that online, and that's not going away. And that's probably our differentiator. if you want marketing or any kind of services for £16.50 for a day, and you don't care about having a relationship with someone, you can go on Fiverr or Upwork, and clients stay with us for years because we have that personal touch. We do go see them and we do run events together and have them into the office. I think that that's more important now than it was before. People want people they can trust. We're never going to be the best marketers in the world or the best at every single thing, but I do want to be the best at providing a decent service and someone that they can trust.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose this will come up again, but the whole sort of, I mean, if you can afford it, it's the people buy from people thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Most people don't want to just have something that's completely invisible. You go for that option because it's cheap and it's a stopgap. But if you're earning enough, you want to be dealing with an actual person and like have a relationship with them where, you know, that you can't have with an algorithm. You can't ring an algorithm up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, oh my God, everything's gone wrong. Can you, like, what can we do? Sort of thing. Well, not that you should be ringing people up at that time, but you know what I mean? Like, people can adjust, adapt, like change things, you know, break rules, break their programming, you know, make things work. So I think that's, especially as we get more, things get more automated, having a person to do the thing will become more and more valuable, I think.
Yeah, and people are so worried about AI stealing their jobs. So I'm like, you've got nothing to worry about. I've really tried. ChatGPT cannot make me laugh. And that's, you know, we do personality with content. There's so much boring drivel on the internet now that I want to sit chuckling while I'm writing something. If you're enjoying creating it, then someone's going to enjoy watching it. You want to get a bit weird on the internet, and you can't automate human relationships and comedic effect.
Yeah, and you can't program spontaneity. So do we want to say any more on COVID before we move on?
No, but I don't think so. It's just that relationships are, in services especially, are so much more important now, and people value it so much more than ever before. So whilst loads of companies have tried moving to remote, like Nike tried going remote completely, and they took it back because their innovation just absolutely dropped, and they were just releasing new colorways and everything. I think creativity, brainstorming, you need that in person.
Yeah, because you feed off the energy and you lose that energy with, you know, a medium in between. It kind of blocks that, the free flowing creative energies. But it's true, it does, you know, like you get in a room, you get more, the spontaneity, the play creates the, you know, helps to create the creation. I just have a quick question on your kind of work-life balance through that period. Were you quite good at switching off? You're starting a new business, you're self-employed. Did you just work yourself flat out?
Yeah.
Did you get to a point where you're like, I need to stop this for, you know, I need to put structures in place here?
Yeah. Because I mean, it was fine when it was the 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and I was getting out for my walk. I was started running in lunchtime because I realised I could go see more stuff in the hour than if I walked. But it was really bad at one point because I had nothing to do. So when I was freelancing and it was a day rate, the more work I took on, the more I could earn. So I was like, why would I sit wasting my Saturday drinking boxed wine in front of Netflix when I could get extra money to spend on stuff when we're out of lockdown? Because everyone thought it was just like temporary. So especially at the start, when your time is money, I was just taking on more and more and more, and just jobs and clients that weren't respectful of me, that paid invoices late, that, you know, would speak down to me and didn't understand the value of what I was doing. but because I was worried, I didn't want to turn work down or say no or stop working with a client when they started becoming a bit of a nightmare. So it wasn't great. And hiring did alleviate that a lot. And then I could go away. But right now, it's not great. My work-life balance isn't great. But it comes and goes in periods. So like we'll be onboarding new work and then I'm doing over hours, like hiring someone. We're doing all the onboarding in the day and then I've still got to do my work and their work in the evening on my free time. I'm still doing bits at weekends. I'm still working longer days, but like the end is in sight. As long as there's an end in sight, I'm like, right, this is temporary. I can work my ass off now and then I can take a step back when it's all kind of set up or when this is offboarded or when this campaign's finished. Then we'll have like a quiet period and then I'll be like, oh, I'm bored now. Let's bring more on and create some chaos.
Well, you kind of get, as you do more stuff, you kind of get addicted to doing more stuff, don't you? Well, I do. And then you kind of like, there's a point at which you can't do anymore, but you're trying to, and you are doing more stuff, but you're also failing at more stuff as well.
Yeah, you can't do everything. They're like, there's been a couple of points where I'm like, I can't get out of bed. This is not good. And a few weeks ago, it was like just really, I was really not at my creative peak. And then I wrote down a list like, why does my life suck right now? And it's like, right, I've not been outside. I've not eaten a vegetable. I've not slept more than 5 hours. I've not been to the gym in a while. And then just making like those small things and making time for yourself each day. Like usually go for a lunchtime wander or a yoga class or something, or if I go to the gym in the morning, then at least I feel like I've done something for myself. Because if you're just working solidly, you start getting resentful and bitter, and that's how burnout happens. If you feel like you've been forgotten
You
or
do
you don't have an identity outside of work.
Yeah. And you do have to exert control over it. I mean, my other question was sort of like, have you had a chance to have any leave yet? Or have you even given yourself a proper day off where you haven't done anything?
Yes.
Good. Well done.
Yeah. I managed to take 2 weeks completely offline, had no signal. I went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I couldn't even text my mum to tell her I was alive. And I came back and the world hadn't burnt down.
Yeah. And you
And
were
it
straight
was
back to
fine.
it.
Yeah, it was okay. But when it's this busy or we've got like a lot of overlap with onboarding, offboarding, it is busier. But like I do have leave planned in. Sometimes I do need to take my laptop with me. Sometimes the odd thing will happen. But I think I'm a lot better at protecting my time. Like I'll do a few bits on Saturday just because we've got a project and I'll cover for the team on Monday, just some live posting on bank holiday. But like Sunday, I'm offline. Usually every single Sunday I have offline because I'm at the stables. I'm teaching disabled kids how to ride horses. And if I've got a blooming laptop whilst I'm trying to do that, then someone's on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice way to do it as well, isn't it? It's like I'm doing something where I can't, like I literally, like I have to leave it. Yeah, that's a good process.
It's not switching off, it's switching over to something where you physically cannot work.
I like that. One last question on this kind of work-life balance area. How you're a founder, you're an owner, you got into business to do the thing that you love, which is the work that you do. You started a business, which means you have to oversee and operate and do the strategy and stuff. How are you finding that? Do you get time to do the strategy and operational stuff? Obviously, you brought someone in to help with that now or lead on that. But how do you feel about being drawn away from the thing that you want to do into more of the running a business thing? Are you balancing that quite well at the moment?
I'm really struggling to let go. I still want to be involved, and I'm still working on what that looks like for me. And we've got a contractor who can do all the operational side of it. We've got HR, we've got accounting, so I'm not doing the bookkeeping or like invoice chasing and or like all of the team well-being, everything. Obviously, with being a manager, you do that, but any of like the contractual stuff and leave and that kind of like anything. I basically wrote a full list out. Like these are all the tasks that I do. And they go to someone else. So we've got 2 virtual assistants, and they do a lot of like the behind the scenes admin for me to free up my time on stuff that's more valuable. But I don't want to fully step away from it. Like I don't want to grow it to 100 and whatever team, because then my entire job becomes managing people, and that's not why I started. So I'll still be involved at account management level, even if the team are on delivery. Like I still want to do the client services, business development, and there's a few like copywriting clients I just love writing that I will keep for myself, that are smaller ones that I can manage or hand over to someone if I'm off. But that's a concern. I don't want to just be an operations manager sat doing invoices and managing teams.
Yeah, that's a hard one to, that's going to be a problem that you're wrestling with for a while, I reckon. Yeah. Okay, so let's do social media. Let's do something a bit fun before we do Brexit and climate change. Sorry, excuse me. So social media, obviously this is your whole area. My question generally here is about kind of return on investment for time. So I ask most people, like, how much time do you spend on it? And do you feel that you get the value that you want from that time that you put in? I'm guessing, obviously, the answer for you is yes. You've created an entire business in this industry. So, I mean, what's your... I'll just say, how does social media affect your work?
It is a way for businesses to reach people, and it's an extra touch point. It's an extra place to have personality, and especially LinkedIn. My business wouldn't have grown where it is without it. I managed to build an audience on there, and that's where a lot of our work comes from, or how people like book me for events, and clients across the world. Like we've worked with clients in Australia, in LA, in New York, and it's all been through LinkedIn that they found me or referred me on or had a connection. So it's really helped. And client wise, it's like an extra medium for them. It's like awareness, organic social media. We say, like, don't expect a direct return unless you're absolutely going for it on organic. Paid media is where you get the returns on ads and things like that, directly measurable. But a lot of people still think social media is the devil, and it absolutely can be. It's really hard to use social media personally and not start sending things to client accounts like, oh, this is a good idea, or I'm saving this audio for later, like this is a good trend, and or easy to fall into the comparison trap, spending time on LinkedIn. But you never know what's going on behind the scenes. If people are saying, oh, social media makes me feel crap, I need a break, I'm like, you need an unfollow spree. There's loads of positive news pages and wholesome content that we're creating, and loads of good stuff on there. So if you feel crap when you open your social feed, unfollow every post on there.
I think that's amazing advice, really. And I've said that myself on this show. Like, just if they're just showing you horror, turn it off. You don't need to see that. Like,
it's like the algorithms are geared towards showing you the top, like absolute peak of everything, because no one cares about Brenda sat eating digestives on a living room floor after crying at RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, you're gonna see the chiseled abs and like the world's most successful entrepreneur and like the shock stories and the massive successes, just because that's what grabs people's attention. So the more people engage with that stuff, you're going to get shown more of that stuff. So when you realize, actually, all I'm seeing is the top 1% of everything that's on there. And that's not the reality. The other posts just don't get the time of day because they're not as exciting. It's easier.
Well, I mean, from some of the stuff that I've seen, there's kind of it's not necessarily that the social media makes you feel bad. It's kind of you feel bad and then you go to social media, so it reinforces that way. It's kind of like, you know, sort of what's the word, like comfort eating. You know, it's that sort of, oh, you're kind of doing something to actively hurt yourself because you feel like hurting yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, social media can be a form of self-harm.
Yeah.
Like, why do people go and stalk their exes or like their like nan's dog's Instagram account that's got more followers than their Rottweilers or whatever? It can be a pit of comparison, and people do fall down it, but it's their responsibility to catch themselves. As a social media manager, it's not my responsibility to help people feel better about themselves. I've had messages from people saying, I'm unfollowing you on LinkedIn, or you make me feel crap about myself. And I'm like, that's on you. If you look at my work and you don't think that's possible, I can achieve that, amazing, cool, unfollow it. It's not the creator's responsibility to manage someone else's self-esteem in the way they use social. But it is their responsibility if they're putting out harmful messages, lies. I see loads of six-figure entrepreneurs. I'm like, I know your day rate. Like, this is how I built my following. And I'm like, you bought that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's a lot of misinformation.
This is how I got my car that I just found in the street that I'm sat on.
Yeah. I've rented it.
Yeah. I photoshopped it in. So, okay, let's do Brexit first, and then we'll do climate change. So with Brexit, again, the question is just, have you noticed a change? Has it changed anything for you work-wise? It can be good, bad, or not at all. So
not at all, because it was before we started, so I don't actually know how it would have transpired otherwise, to be honest. A lot of our clients are English speaking anyway, Australia, America. So it's not really impacted us across like Europe.
Yeah. And it's not like the various ISPs are, you know, collecting tariffs or doing customs paperwork on the digital content you're moving internationally.
Yeah, exactly. We're not importing physical goods or anything. So it's pretty negligible, or there's no like action that I've taken or done anything differently.
Yeah. And then on the climate change front, so the question is kind of around awareness, mitigation, all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of like, can you do anything about climate change in your work? Now, you're a business owner, so obviously you can. Is it something that's part of the process? Is it something that you thought about yet or can think about yet? Or is it kind of a problem for further down the line?
Yeah, I think sustainability in general, rather than climate change specifically, we try do a lot with. And we only take on sustainable clients. A lot of our clients B Corps or working towards it. It's all sustainable materials. We did turn down a client who was two actually. One was chopping down the trees in the Amazon rainforest. They built the equipment for that. I said, absolutely not. I don't want anyone to buy it. You let me in your website and I'd shut it down. And another fast fashion brand, and kind of made in questionable circumstances, and just it's not something that we want to support. We only want to work with companies that we feel are actively providing something that people want, not adding to pointless consumerism, stuff that's going to improve someone's life and that they're contributing to something good. We only want to market stuff or show ads to people who we genuinely think would benefit from it. And we're pretty sustainable anyway. We've got a co-working space rather than an office. Like, it's not a closed office, it's a bank of desks that we're all sat on together. And I bike into work. We don't do a huge amount of business travel every day, or if it is, it's always public transport. We don't drive a lot, and as far as digital, the biggest impact that we'll have is taking up a lot of storage space with video content. But we're on kind of sustainable servers, and we regularly archive and delete things that permanently that we don't need. So we're not, I mean, people say they're carbon neutral, like Amazon working towards carbon neutral. They're not. They're still pumping loads out. They're just buying wind farms and things.
Offsets, yeah.
So yeah, it's all offset. So I suppose we're as sustainable as we can be, and we are conscious about it with our marketing of goods, because if we're selling loads and loads of plastic straws and cups and loads of throwaway clothing items, it does have an impact.
Yeah, I mean that's a difficult area. I'm not going to go off on a huge tangent on this, but the whole thing of like branded things, and when you have events, having freebies, because it's good to give people freebies, but then it's just landfill, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
that's a difficult one. And then we've done Brexit, we've done climate change. Yeah, we've done the fourth, right? So let's do the change question. So obviously, you're a business owner, business founder. You can change things if you want to, within reason. But I mean, there's also things that ideal conditions, or if I could change that, I could. So if you could change any three things about your work, what would you change?
Probably. It's stuff that's within my power to change, and I know I should. Not overworking. Probably being stricter with my own time. So it is a New Year's resolution to say yes to things if the no would be because I need to work more. I'm not going to do this fun thing I actually want to do. And maybe, I suppose it's out of my control having clients pay on time. Because when I chase the invoice, I get nothing back. So then I ask the ops manager or the accountant to chase with a dude's name behind it, instant response of when the payment date's coming. So I'd probably change that, because being young female in business, people try to take the piss a bit. So I would try change that. But that's out of my hands. And maybe I would change people's perceptions of social media marketing and marketing in general as not being that valuable, because there are so many people doing it so cheaply that they don't think it's worth a huge amount, or that it's a nice to have, which it can be, but your marketing in general, that's sales, that's how you make business. And people think as soon as something scary happens, switch off and pull the marketing budget. But if that's where all your sales and your customers are coming from, you really need to ramp it up.
Yeah, that's the time to spend. You're exactly right. And it's like, the businesses that were sensible were the people that were finding you, because everybody else is cutting their marketing budgets. And the ones that are like, oh, hang on, we need to make more noise now. We need to be more present. We need to be bigger. Like, because there's more competition in the market. So why wouldn't you market more at that point? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like not training your staff. It's the whole thing of like, but if I train, what if I train them and they leave? It's like, what if you don't and they stay? You've got an entire business full of useless people who are bored out of their minds and hate it and don't really want to do anything for you. Like invest in your staff, invest in your products and your marketing. That makes sense to me.
Completely hit the nail on the head.
So UBI, universal basic income. If there was a universal basic income, do you think that would change anything for you work-wise? My immediate thought here is setting up the business. It might have helped, especially when you've got people who aren't paying their invoices on time. But yeah, I'll let you answer. How would it affect anything for you? Would it have made any difference?
Maybe. I think especially when I just panicked when the first ever client and like the invoices just stopped going through. I freaked out. I mean, I had savings because I was like, this might happen, and everything goes and whatever. But I still took a mortgage holiday, and that would have kind of made me feel more comfortable not taking on work that wasn't aligned, or taking on work that I didn't enjoy with people that didn't respect me, or paid invoices late and keeping those on because you're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next week. So I think I would have taken on less work that wasn't a good fit and that didn't do me any good, and it just didn't benefit anyone really, which I'm doing now. But in terms of hours, probably not, because there are some months when, as a small business, like I'm not paying myself, or I forget to, or I want to save up, like pump it into hiring the next month. So it's like reinvesting my own money really. But I think I'd still, like, even in those times or when it's uncertain, I'm still putting the hours in because I feel like I'm contributing to something bigger. I wouldn't stop it. No.
I mean, you've got a purpose. This is the thing.
Yeah.
You've got a purpose there. It's not only that it's like how much. So, I mean, obviously you wanted to be a vet, for going back to the beginning, but like so many people are like, I've no idea. So if you get to that, especially if you're a business owner or you've started a business, something, and that's where you're coming from, it's like, I know what to do now. Like I've got meaning, I've got purpose, I've something to do. So you spend your time on it. You don't just want to be like, oh, well, I've got a bit of extra cash, so I'm going to just do this as a hobby, which I could definitely be accused of, but I'm having all sorts of other issues with, like, making myself work. But yeah, it's like once you've got a purpose, that drives you, and you want to get up and work on it, and you want to stay late, and you want to, so yeah. So I want to do something, and this is the point where I throw it over to you to talk about anything that you might want to talk about. If you haven't got anything prepared, I'm going to give you a sort of, if you can give us your social media contact, where can people find you and find out more? So we'll start with the social media, and then we'll go back to, like, if you want to talk about anything else.
Yeah, you can find us on TikTok, X, and Instagram, and Threads. I haven't posted on Threads in ages, on the company one, at FBComms Agency, COMMS, and I'm on LinkedIn, Fiona Bradley, and FBComms is on there. It's the best place to find us. LinkedIn's my jam.
Yeah.
It's like the decorator's wall is the last to be painted. We spend so much time doing other people's socials that, aside from LinkedIn, because it's the biggest return for us, the other socials I have personally neglected. I'm sorry, I'll start that again soon.
But that, you find that a lot. It's the kind of thing of being a marketing company. It's like the thing that gets neglected, like you say, the last thing you do is your own marketing.
We do a lot of our own marketing, just not on actual social media.
Yeah.
It's finding the stuff that is the biggest return versus time investment, like public speaking, awards entries, and LinkedIn, and that's where our energy is focused when we don't have a huge amount of it.
Yeah. And it's easier to kind of point to the successes that you've created and kind of go, this worked really well for this company. Look at the results they've had, rather than going, we're brilliant. Look at how brilliant this thing we did is. It's amazing, because that's not going to land with everyone, is it? Whereas you can show, that seems more objective of like, we have, got this many more followers for them, or this many more sales, or yeah.
No one cares about, like, the actual marketing. No one comes and says, right, I want 3 Instagram posts a week. I'd like a video to go on LinkedIn. Like, they want sales, they want security, they want some of their time back, they want the knowledge gap filled. So any sales stuff, any good business owner or salesperson is a great writer, and you can speak their language and appeal to what the person actually wants. Like Yankee Candle, they're not like, oh, look at this big flame. No one wants that. They want the prestige of having an expensive, fancy candle on the shelf, and the smell and the atmosphere and the calm and whatever. I've got 2 here, actually, are other ones. This one says happiness. This one says real luxury. I've not bought those for happiness and like for the flame or look of it.
Yeah, you've
It's
got them for the
feeling.
candleness of them, but also because it's a nice smell. It's the
Yeah.
sell, the sizzle, not the steak, isn't it? It's the connection to the idea. So,
That's the-
is there anything that you want to talk about, or anything that you want to flag up, or anything that you want to kind of boast about, anything at all that you want to kind of pitch or sell, or ask me any questions or anything at all? I've kind of run through this, but your chance to talk about anything.
I want to name drop the After Work Club, which is our networking event in Leeds, because I think my network was so important in starting up, and I've hired from the After Work Club. I've got clients from the After Work Club. My little sister, she moved to Manchester. She didn't know anyone. She's made friends at the Manchester After Work Club. We run 3 events a month. So I've been to so many dreadful networking events. It just ends up being a pissing competition with whose business has the most assets and what have you. It's not fun. So we're trying to help people, because networking benefited me so much, like help other people do that in a fun way. We've got wellbeing events, we've got panel talks from industry experts, we do run club, we've got cinema club, and like your classic networking events, but there's always an activity for people to speak to, not just stood awkwardly getting drunk in a corner on your phone.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good thing. Me and an ex-colleague have been talking about. So my whole thing is more film stuff.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about, like, for the size of Leeds and for the amount of production stuff that's going on here now, and Channel 4 moving here and various stuff. Like, there's no real ongoing. There's the Film Hub North thing from BFI that's an occasional mixer, but there should be like a regular event ongoing in Leeds. I mean, there's all this DIY screening and stuff, which is great, but there are a bunch of creatives and filmmakers and, writers, artists, and so on. And they need to connect, they need to connect and start working together and building things. And because it doesn't happen if nobody makes it happen.
Yeah. And if that community isn't there and doesn't exist,
You've got to
create
make
it. Yeah. Create it. Find those people. Use social media.
So that's an excellent out point. I'm just going to, because we've got a bit longer, I've only gone 50 minutes here. So are you okay for now? Do you want to escape a bit earlier as well?
I'm good. I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
You've spoken to so many business owners and entrepreneurs. What is the one key challenge that is pretty unanimous across everybody? Or a few that are common themes?
I think that's a good question. It's quite difficult to answer. I think because a lot of the thing, it's weird because you start off, and I've gone through my own process with it, and as you do more of them, you sort of see these links appearing and so on. And the last this year especially has really been a lot of talk about networking and the importance of networking, and that was something that was so lacking for me during lockdown. Of like, yeah, you really did feel like who do you talk to, and how do you get to people, and how do you reach them? So yeah, the importance of networking and having that available to you and actually engaging in it. And I think a lot of I don't know, this is a really good question. I'm going to think on it. But there's a lot there as well in terms of how do founders and owners kind of fortify themselves, and how do they... So I also work on the Leeds Business podcast, Phil Fraser's podcast, and he talks a lot about, being lonely at the top, because
Yeah.
even when you start to build a network of employees and so on, and you're trying to build the culture and you're all trying to be on the same page, you still have to be objectively separate from them. And so you're always kind of at an arm's length from it. And it's like you said when we were talking about how do you stay connected to doing the thing that you wanted to do. I think that's the hard thing. It's, because a lot of business owners and business startups, we don't want to be, you want to make money, you want to do this, but we don't all want to be Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or, Carlos Sim or whatever. Some of us just want to like create good jobs, create a good business. It's a difficult question. I think money. I think ultimately it's money, isn't it? It's like having that capital to start. And I think the other thing as well is that I don't know how much research you did before starting up, but one of the common things that I see and one of the common mistakes that I see is people don't do the research. We kind of start backwards. We try and find what we're passionate about first, or what we're competent with, what we can do, we know we can do, and then build from there. I was going somewhere with that, but I've lost my point.
I think I did the opposite, because you can spend forever, and I see this a lot of people, potential clients come to me and they've still not got a business, they've just got a few ideas, but they've spent years like refining branding and strategy and where they want to sell. And I'm like, but when you first, it's completely different now to when you first started. So what I did, I just set up and I was like, I'm going to figure this out as I go along. And if I don't know something, then I'm going to find someone that does. Like, I got the accountant to just sit with me and I was like, right, teach me taxes, help me understand VAT, what the hell is going on? Like, what's PAYE, what's national, how do I pay people student loans? Like, just, there's only so much you can learn through research, but I already knew from being in the industry, this is what people need, this is what is helpful, this is where I can add value, rather than it being something completely new. If someone's like, I'm going to start selling, I don't know, flip-flops with goldfish in the bottom, like, and they've done no research as to whether that's actually
why
viable.
And to who.
You don't know, but it's so I suppose I'd already done that research being in the industry, but there's only so much that you can learn by listening to, like, I was listening to so many business podcasts every single second of the day and reading all of the books and about mindset and marketing and entrepreneurship, but I spent all my time reading and wasn't taking action on it. So I used to read a book a week, and now it's like, right, I'll read one every few weeks, or when I pick it up or on Audible, and then I'll put it into action, and then I'll pick up another one next, rather than constantly trying to feed yourself all of the information at once. And something and make the time to do it. Otherwise it's pointless.
And it's that whole thing of, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like, I mean, you can... I've done, working in various admin roles, I've done so many Excel courses, and I could do all sorts with it. But depending on the role you're in and whether you're using that or not, like now I can just basically fill numbers in and put, maybe a couple of basic formulas in. But I could do various charts and pivot tables and stuff. I probably still could if I applied myself a bit. But, if you're not using that, you do lose it. Because you don't need it, like, so the practice is so important, like actually doing the thing that you've done. One of the things that would always really irritate me in workplaces was sort of meetings that could be emails and meetings that didn't have any actions coming out of it. And then the actions that did come out of it don't get done. Like, what's the point? Like, have a meeting to decide what needs to be done and what is to be done, and then do it. Like, otherwise, what are you doing?
That's it. We only have 45 minutes of team meetings a week. Well, it's usually more like 20 minutes. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10, 15-minute huddle, do a whip round. What's your win for today? So Monday morning, it might be a personal win of something they've done at the weekend, or they've seen some great results at the end of last week that they didn't get to share, or they've had everything approved for the week without amends, something. And so everyone starts the day off like we can share each other's wins, because I don't have full visibility over what's going well for them or what's going well on every single account. So then I get to see it and we can share it with the client. And then what are your 3 non-negotiables for the day? So if I ask them at 4:30, what have you done today? And they've got like 3 big tasks that they were going to tick off. And then I'll say, right, is there any blockers to that? And I'm like, oh, can someone else just proof this? I'm waiting on this for a client to be able to finish it. We can sort it out then. And it's like 5 to 15 minutes done, bam. Everyone's got everything they need to get on.
Yeah. Keep it short and sharp. And that thing, I'll tell you a personal thing. So lately I'm trying to force myself into a work day kind of counterproductively, because that's kind of the reason I'm doing this, is to not do that to a degree. But also that is really helpful. That sort of, you have to finish now and any other work needs to be done tomorrow, rather than trying to do your big epic, I'm going to do 12 hours on this and cram. It's like, no, you got to learn to plan. You've got to learn to be able to do it in the time. He says, having been 3 weeks late for the latest episode. And all the next few episodes I was going through, and like there's a whole bunch of them that are 2 hours long, which is just loads of editing that I'm like, oh. But yeah, I'm getting there. I'm moving through them slowly, but that is really helping me at the moment, making me sort of go, you're out of time. If you didn't do anything, that's your fault.
I'm trying to find it. Actually, right, I've got a timer. So it's really loud. I set it for like 25 minutes, half an hour, and like I gamify things.
Yeah.
So if that goes off when I'm in the office, it's like the desk area is silent, meetings are in call booths and stuff. So if that goes off, it's like, oh, I wander off and get distracted. It's a high stakes game because I piss off everyone in that area. So I have to do it. Like I'm only allowed to do one task while the timer's on. Nothing else can distract me. It's only half an hour. But usually by the time I got into that, if it's a big project, I'm going to carry it on because I've got really into it. Or if I'm like, right, I've done half an hour, that's done, and I can wander around, get a drink, and then go back to the next thing. That's like how I'm trying to do it. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, actually that took me 3 lots of half an hour and it shouldn't have. Why is that? Or if I'm like, oh, actually I can do that in 10 minutes when I just sit and focus. Why am I blocking out 2 hours to do it on a Friday afternoon? I don't need that.
Yeah. And a lot of the time it's mental, isn't it? It's that whole, I like with this edit, it's fine. It's a good interview. Like my mic's crap and I need to sort of bring my levels up, which is annoying and fiddly, which takes the time. But when I'm doing it, I'm fine. It's just like making myself do it because I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. And you build it up in your head into a thing and then you make it more difficult for yourself. And if you could just ignore yourself and just get on with it, it's easier. I think that's a key battle for anyone that's doing anything. It's like, what is the most common problem with all entrepreneurs? Them being in their own way.
Yeah. Is the comedy teacher who mentioned the stand-up comedy course earlier. He has a trick. He has a really loud timer and he sets it for 3 minutes. He's like, write for 3 minutes about just this certain topic. And usually you spend the first 40 seconds like, oh my God, I don't know. And then nearly every time when the time goes off and he's like, pens up, so you're not writing, people don't want to finish because they've got into something. So I've started using the little bleepy timer for 3 minutes as well. I'm like, right, if I'm really struggling to get started or I don't know where to begin, just flipping start writing something, just start creating a video, just start looking for all the files. Because it's that first minute of mental hurdle. And then like 99% of the time, I'm like, right, I know what I'm doing now. I'm in it.
Yeah. I was like, when I did my degree, they're like the tyranny of the blank page, I used to call it, you know, when that cursor's just blinking at you. It's like, once you've got something, you're off. You know, you start going, but it's that there's nothing there, and you've got to make it happen. And it's the whole transition thing. I think that, you know, again going back to film, I think there's a whole. It's it's not necessarily being in one state or the other. It's the transition from one state to the other that is the problem. It's not being in the water and being wet, because once you're in, you're fine. It's going from being dry to being wet that's the issue, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, but that's the whole nice little aside. Have you got any other questions?
Probably, what is the worst advice you've ever received or heard someone espouse?
That's a good question. You should have a podcast. Sell.
I'm neurodivergent. I'll just get to the deep stuff.
So, worst advice.
Or that someone's, or tactic that someone's mentioned or that you've seen online. Or the best.
I would say rushing. Like, it's kind of rushing into stuff. I'm very much crawl, walk, run, rather than like just go for it. You know, like that's good. It depends what you're doing, but also there is a lot of, as we've discussed, figuring things out.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can run head first into something and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone follow me. But you will stumble a lot, and some people are really good at doing that. But I think for someone like myself, you need to kind of do a thing and know that you can do it, or know that you've understood it. And that's very much how I work. And that's kind of seems to have been your approach as well, of like,
slow
hang
and
on.
steady.
Yeah, like I need to understand this. I need to I should be doing more, and I should be pushing this, and all of these things need to happen, but I've got to get the basics right first, I think. And that's the thing that I have been the biggest hindrance to my business, but I'm also, you know, obviously it wouldn't exist without me. So, yes, but I still think I'm doing it in the right way, but I'm very resistant to other people coming and looking, because they'll be like, what are you doing?
I think what you just said is universal.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially, yeah. I mean, a lot of people do kind of reflect that back to me, with a lot of owners and stuff. I think as well, I don't know how you feel about this, but a business partner, like if you were doing it again, would you do it on your own again, or would you do it with someone else? Because I think I'd want a business partner if I was to do this again. I think it really helps.
Yeah,
It's finding them though.
Yeah. And I mean, I've got like my ops manager who can cover, like, he's known the business for years, can cover me when I'm on holiday. But while we're so small and we are like, you know, a lot of it is based on kind of time and output.
Mm-hmm.
That would be unless you're building it really big and really quick, you've got two people that aren't bringing in the direct income by doing.
Mm-hmm.
In services, it's much harder to do that, or it needs to be of a certain size to have that, unless you are still both doing part of the doing. But yeah, I think I probably would do it with a co-founder if I was to start a business again. But I don't know, I'm a control freak. I like things a certain way, like other people that can give kind of input.
Yeah.
But I don't think I like being told what to do.
No. Well, that's been neurodivergent again as well, isn't it? Like,
even the team, I'm like, right, these are all the tasks, but it's up to you. Like, these are all the tasks and the deadlines. Sort your calendar out, or like however you want to get to that end point and that deadline.
Yeah.
And then they like are actively choosing to, oh, I'm going to do this reel, I'm going to do this research now, and then I'm going to kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm probably quite unemployable now.
Well, I'm like, I'm the best boss I've ever worked for, but I'm also the worst employee I've ever had.
Oh yeah, I'm the problem.
So I'm gonna wrap us up there. But before I do, I want, because we've talked about the stand-up comedy thing, and I saw your post this morning, which we sort of open with, and not to put you on the spot, but I mean you're going to be on the spot anyway.
Yeah.
So you're going to be doing a bit of stand-up comedy. Where can people find out about that, and when is it?
So the first one's next week. I'm not releasing dates and times until that one goes well and everyone finds me hilarious. And if that goes well, then we'll look at future bookings. And then I'll post all about it on LinkedIn.
Cool. Excellent. And the other thing I'll say before we go, the penny only dropped during this recording of like FBComms was your name, like was your initials. I was just thinking Facebook the whole time. That was obviously deliberate to a degree.
Actually, they did try contest my trademark, but it was just my initials.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was really lazy of me because it's communications, and I was like, I don't specifically know what kind of communications. And I always thought, I'm going to change it. I'll think of a better idea. I'll change it. I mean, we did Facebook ads as part of it, but that's a very small part. I just kept thinking we'll change it, and now it's been 4 years, so I trademarked it a couple of months ago. I won.
That is the one that people don't talk about enough. Like trademarking, we need to especially small businesses. Like my thing now is at the very least, at the end of this project, if everything's still going along, ideally, what I'll have with the company at the very least will be a bunch of followers, and a company with no debt to its name and some kind of brand identity. It's like, at the very least, that's some kind of asset to potentially sell on. So, yeah, that's my thinking. So, thank you very much for today. And did you have any other questions before I close it off? Did you have any?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but just yeah. Yeah, so thank you very much for this and for doing today. And I'm going to let you escape a little bit later, but also a little bit earlier. And thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you again to Fiona for being my guest. Thanks as always to all my guests, and thanks to you, Leeds, for being my subject. If you'd like to know more about Fiona and FBComms, go to fbcomms.co.uk. If you're in Leeds or from Leeds, if you are Leeds, then please be the guest on this show. Yes, I am speaking to you. I still need to find 873 lawyers to interview, so being a guest is the greatest help. You'll get free advertising and media experience, and you'll be part of a unique project in our unique city. Whatever you do, I'm interested to hear about it. You don't have to be online, and you can even be anonymous if you would like. You will enjoy it. Before I go, I have a quick question for you. Obviously, if you have no opinion, I'll decide for myself, but how would you feel if I made the freely published episodes just the first 3 questions of the interview? So what did you want to be? What do you do? And how did you get into it? I published just those bits for free, and then I put all the other answers behind the Patreon paywall, so people will need to pay if they want to hear that part. It'll make the free episodes shorter and more consumable, and push people who like the show to pay to hear the whole episode. I would then also have something to actually put on the Patreon, rather than having to just do more work for free. And I could pick up some patrons then. What do you think? You can email Working Hours at workinghourspod@western-studios.com. Do get in touch. It would be nice to have some mail that isn't a pay me to grow your podcast or followers, or a bill or a receipt. Tell me something. Ask me something. Okay, that's me. Work for peace and plan with kindness. Cheers, ears. Take care out there, and be kind to each other, Leeds. Working Hours is produced, recorded, edited and published by Simon Treen for Western Studios Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org. Follow Western Studios Leeds on Facebook at facebook.com/Western_Studios_Leeds and on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/Western-Studios. Western Studios Leeds will help you realise your podcast for only £30 for an hour of podcast work or £40 for an hour of video work. Do you need someone to take over all your podcast production, recording, editing, or any of the podcast admin? Do you need it all doing? Do you want or need a podcast host, co-host, or narrator for your podcast project? Then get in touch with Western Studios Leeds Limited now. Email makemypodcast@western-studios.com to get your podcast made. Want to make some fundraising case studies? Want to show off your expertise in your field? Want some help creating your show and format, or just some support learning to podcast and getting going? Whatever your podcast needs, get in touch with Western Studios Leeds. Go to western-studios.com and use the contact page to drop me a message about either working hours or about your own podcast project.